Democrats' approval rating circling the drain at an all-time low. Look at the Q poll. Only 19% of voters give congressional Democrats a thumbs up amongst their own voters.
Meanwhile, a whopping 72% disapprove as the party still faces an identity crisis ahead of the midterms.
The great Sean Hannity joins us now. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you? Can we go back to yesterday's show first? I was in bed and I'm watching my favorite morning show, the top-rated morning show in the entire country. Did I hear you, LJ, say that you like Mexican Coke?
That's right. That's right. I meant Mexican Coca-Cola.
Because? The sugar cane.
I was just checking.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you read the headlines. But on a serious note, Sean, there's so much talk about the president and his approval rating. Meanwhile, we got record numbers happening now with the stock market. Inflation is down. Gas prices are down. But no one's talking about the Democrats' numbers, which are in the drain.
You know, my heart is troubled. I feel so bad for the Democrats. Look, they don't have a message. I think it was Rogan that said that there's been no course correction, there's no introspection. If something goes wrong, if you lose, usually you make adjustments. Usually you look a little deeper, you dig deeper, you try to figure out why. They are absolutely, positively clueless to this day as to what happened November 5th of last year and why they got, beaten so bad. Donald Trump won all 7 swing states. He won the popular vote. You're right. His approval ratings went up significantly. In spite of all the, quote, Epstein scandal talk that had been going on, people anticipated his numbers would go down. They did not. They went up. 19% is about as low as you can get, although Chuck Schumer did beat that. He's at a personal low of about 17%. But look what has emerged. Not only did they not reflect or have introspection as to why they lost, now they've come up with their new spokespeople. And I love every one of them. I want to be very clear to your audience how much I love them. Jasmine Crockett. I can't play enough Jasmine Crockett on my show. AOC, the squad members, Grandpa Bernie, Pocahontas, and then our all-time favorite, Mamdani. And if they want to go with Mamdani as the mayor of New York City, I invite you all to come and broadcast your show as I do, originate your show in the free state of Florida, because there is going to be a mass exodus out of the state of New York, the likes of which we've never seen. What a lot of people don't know, and it's a pretty fascinating phenomenon, is Wall Street South is already here.
Yep.
All these companies, they don't just have offices in southern Florida. No, they've got half their companies down here now. And the reason is because of burdensome regulation, high taxes. They've chased them out, and they're just going to pick up and leave completely now.
So, Sean, how do you see this playing out? Because I just had a poll. Cuomo's within 3. Adams is within 10. I mean, I think he might have tapped out at maybe 40%. Sliwa is in striking distance. So play this out over the next few months. What happens?
Okay, so Mamdani's numbers have been going down. It looked like it might be a slam dunk in the beginning.
Right.
I'm not so sure. Okay, Cuomo's definitely leading in terms of coming into second place, but you've got 3 leftists on the ticket besides Mamdani. And sorry, Eric Adams is not polling particularly well. I know there's going to be a lot of money thrown in his direction. But if all 3 of them stay in the race and Mamdani stays in the race, I do believe it's an outside shot, but it does create a lane for Curtis Sliwa, who's been a longtime friend of mine, who really is Mr. New York. He loves New York City. Every time I went on the subway, I used to do a radio show when I first started at Fox in 1997. I was doing 11 p.m. at night till 2 a.m. in the morning. And I get on the subway, and there was Curtis Sliwa. It was me and Curtis and some crazy people. And so he just loves New York. He'll be a mayor of the people. If anything, I would predict he'd be Giuliani 2.0. He'd really get the city put together. The problem he has is that city is you out-register Democrats nearly 10-1. Very hard. But if you split the Democratic vote 3 ways, that creates a lane for him to maybe win and get in.
Yeah, it's crazy. This guy is not in favor of capitalism. He wants high taxes. I mean, we all like low taxes. We don't want handouts. We want to work. He doesn't like private properties. We like to own houses. That's the American dream. He doesn't like democracies, communist, socialism, Marxism, Sean. And he doesn't like prisons. And he doesn't like the police.
Ainsley, I think this is a great idea. We have to open our minds a little bit here, because if there's somebody in Times Square or in the subway, and let's say they're on drugs or they have mental health issues and they're in trouble, he won't send the police, he will send in a social worker. Now, meanwhile, he's threatening people's lives around him. And I'm sure that social worker will outperform every expectation we have. And that social worker will attempt to talk to the people that's threatening to kill other people and say, now, did something happen in your childhood that caused you to or triggered you to have these feelings that you're having right now?
To get the
Is there
kitchen knife
anything
and
that we could
threaten your
talk about your
crazy.
past? Madness. This is insanity. Oh, and he does want to especially tax the whiter neighborhoods. Never heard about taxation based on race.
Just blatant
That's a new
racism.
one.
You know what, Sean? Speaking of insanity, you were one of the first people to call it. Actually, you called it before he was president. Remember, you were sitting me in front of Joe Biden's house when he was candidate Biden at the time, saying he's not well.
I did. I remember. By the way, you did a great job, LJ.
Thanks.
You were awesome.
You know,
You were great.
He didn't want to come out on the campaign trail, and it's like, come out, come talk to us, come talk to us. Well, now James Comer is thinking about calling in Dr. Jill. This is what he said.
I think the possibility is very good that that we'll be asking members of the family to come in and talk. We'll decide as a committee what steps to take next and who to bring in, but I think right now every option's on the table.
So every time they ask them to testify, they either plead the fifth or they say, I don't recall.
Yeah, so I had Mike LaRosa, who is Jill Biden's press secretary, on the show last night. And it is so fun to ask the question and watch Democrats squirm. When you say, when did you first notice Joe Biden's cognitive decline? Well, I don't think I ever saw a cognitive decline. Then you kind of start working your way backwards. What about that debate that he had with Donald Trump? Did you notice it then? Yeah, I did notice it then. Oh, okay. At what point before that did you notice that? We went back in the archives for kicks and giggles, and I first started talking about this in August and September of 2019. It was pretty early on in that 2020 campaign where he said, well, this used to be self-evident that all men and women are created by the thing. You know, the thing. That would be God, the creator of everything, but he didn't remember, a good indication. And it was one incident after another. I mean, look, part of it, I feel sorry for him. On the other side of it, all the people around him that covered this up, created for this country a serious constitutional crisis. Who was making the decisions? The New York Times piece points out that he just laid out criteria and standards for pardons and commutations, but the authorization did not come from Joe Biden. That, to me, would render all those commutations, all those pardons invalid, and hopefully over time we'll get answers to it. But if everyone keeps going in there and they keep pleading the fifth, I think they should be called in. What will be very interesting, for example, if if Hunter Biden, who got this unconditional pardon, or Biden's brother is called in, because they got that pardon, they do not have the right to invoke the Fifth Amendment. That means they're going to have to speak. And that means that if you lie to Congress, that would be a crime, and that would not be covered by the pardons that they were given. You know, and if
I didn't know that.
And what's fascinating about it is, to me, is, you know, they will spectacularly lie, and the country will see it. And I think that'll be, you know, just pure entertainment. But look, when you consider Mamdani and Jasmine Crockett, AOC, the Squad, Bernie, Pocahontas, this issue of lying, they lied about his cognitive state. They told us the border was secure. We have known terrorists, murderers, rapists, violent criminals, cartel members, gang members in the country. I'm going to be honest, guys. The lying, people got sick of it. And Donald Trump, and I'm going to focus very heavily on this tonight on my show. This has been the most transformational, consequential 6 months in the history of the presidency in at least the last 100 years. Brian, I know you're into history. We have never seen anything like this, whether it be the border, whether it be energy, whether it be $11 trillion in committed investments for manufacturing in our country, whether it be the largest tax cut in history, no tax on tips or overtime, whether it be taking out Iranian nuclear facilities, his attempts, and hopefully one day successful, to bring peace to the Middle East. What we're living through is historic. I promise all of you, I've been doing this a long time, we will not see this kind of shock and awe presidency ever again in our lifetime.
But Sean,
enjoy every minute of it.
But I'm enjoying today, but I also like look back in the past. And I love criminals. You have this brand new special, Wanted Dead or Alive. Here's a sample of what's dropping on Fox Nation.
In the depths of the Great Depression, America's most famous bank robber makes a daring bid for freedom.
I'm not the killer they say I am. I am getting out of here tonight.
For months, John Dillinger and his gang cut across the Midwest, executing a string of brazen bank robberies and evading justice at every turn. The law may have caught up with the gang, but John Dillinger has one more trick up his sleeve.
Sheriff will be mad as hell. I just stole this car.
Little does he know, the most notorious bank robber in America has just entered the crosshairs of J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI.
John Dillinger.
I got it. So I loved, and I know, Brian, you love history. I loved every aspect of doing this, but I really got to give all the credit to the writers, the directors, the producers. They did such a great job with this. I learned so much. It is so informative, and it's the history of good versus evil. It's part 2. We did part 1, Outlaws and Lawmen. It was a lot of fun. By the way, we do have one other show on Fox Nation, Punchlines and Patriots. By the way, the star of that show is sitting between LJ and Brian. And I discussed during that show how hard it is to be engaged to a celebrity.
Wow, the true story.
Trust me, everyone. I am not the celebrity. This guy right here.
No,
everywhere we go,
that's
people
not true.
stop him.
Oh, you know what?
I'm
No,
so
they'll
proud
stop
of you.
me,
I love
then
it.
all of a sudden
y'all
they
get
see.
a room. Just get a room. Just get a room.
Sean, how worried
no,
are
it's
you?
not that.
Sean, how
LJ,
worried?
it used to be people would say Sean Hannity, and then all of a sudden, oh, Ainsley. Hey,
That's
mister,
not
can you
true.
take a picture of me and Ainsley?
Sean, how worried are you
I'm
for
now
me?
a photographer.
How worried are you for me? I have a guy here who loves criminals, and I have a guy here who loves Mexican Coke.
This is a red flag.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
All right,
Say
we'll watch
prayers
it
I
for
love
me.
you guys. Watch every day.
We love you too.
Thank you. All right, and we'll can't wait to see your series on Fox Nation.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.